This conference will now be recorded.
I'll give it one more minute here till 3 minutes after, and then we'll get started. Okay, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your location. I'm Jim Romaz from Lewis Berger Services, a WSP company, and the chair of the Joint Engineer Contingency Operations Community of Interest. I hope everyone is doing well, and hopefully we are in the last part of this COVID pandemic. Last month, I actually traveled to Dubai for a conference, and it was refreshing to act like COVID never existed for 3 days, although I was a little worried taking my departure COVID test at the hotel the day before I left. I want to welcome everyone to this bi-monthly meeting for the JECO COI. On the screen, you can see the agenda for today's meeting, in which we will provide an update on the planning for the Warfighter Seminars that will take place as part of SAME's JETC 2022 in Aurora, Colorado in May. And then we will have a guest speaker from industry to provide a briefing on a building system methodology that could be utilized in semi-permanent or permanent contingency environments. Probably could also be used in temporary construction standards, because those temporary buildings seem to last for like 20 years or so. Steve Taylor, are you on the line today?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so before we get started with today's meeting, I'd like to first of all thank Kathy Off for all of the support that she's provided, at least over the years that I've been the JECO COI chair, and even before that, that she's provided. And I understand she's going to go off to bigger and better roles over within SAME. And I would like to welcome Steve Taylor, who recently joined the SAME staff and will be supporting the JECO COI along with other COIs. Steve, I wanted to give you maybe a minute to introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll proceed on with the meeting.
Yeah, Steve Taylor.
Steve?
You may be having some audio issues.
Okay. So Steve provides a wealth of experience, both in industry and also in his role in the Army Reserves, and so we're very happy to have his support with respect to supporting the JECO COI. And Kathy, we wish you the best of luck in your new role within SAME. So the first item I do want to cover today is the update essentially on where we are at with the Warfighter Seminars. So back in December, we went out as the JECO COI to solicit ideas for topics that we would discuss during JETSI 2021 and how many seminars that we would actually hold. And we've been meeting regularly since then after soliciting those ideas to further refine them. And so I'll kind of cover where we're at today and what we're doing pre-JETSI 2022. And so you can see that, from the 4, potentially 5 seminars that we will be holding as part of the Warfighter Seminars, we've definitely focused in on seminar topics. We have identified moderators that will be provided from SAME, as well as seminar leaders that will come from the U.S. government. And between now and JETSI 2022, we'll be taking the next 2.5 or so months, further refining those topics with desired outcomes, as well as, most importantly, identifying panel participants, both from industry and from the government. You can see the schedule for JETSI 2022 there in the red items, and so essentially, like we did last year, we will have an in-brief. That will be a large group in-brief. We will introduce the topics that we'll be talking about for each seminar, the desired outcomes, and then at the end, seeking senior leader guidance with respect to those topics. Then you can see we will be holding 2 separate seminar sessions. So we've got about almost 4 hours, actually 3 hours and 45 minutes in total, where the 3 seminar groups will get together to have their focused discussions. The 4 or 5 seminars that we will hold, the interesting part is that the first 2 seminars are actually continuations of discussions that we held last year. If those of you who recall, Seminar 1 was a very focused Indo-PACOM and EUCOM seminar, and we are very, very happy to hear that the Indo-PACOM folks, and particularly Captain Coggins who is the Indo-PACOM engineer, is supportive of continuing those discussions. And then coming from the Joint Staff, Seminar number 2, which last year worked on identifying malign influences with respect to engineering construction projects and engineer actions within in overseas theaters. They're very interested now in continuing that discussion during this year's JETSI, but this time with a focus on actually countering those malign influences that were identified last year. So in my mind, that's kind of validation of this Warfighter Seminar structure, that there are groups that participated in it last year. The recommendations that those groups came up with were actually put forward and made part of the engineer annual work plan, as well as the joint logistics estimate and other vehicles or processes within the Joint Staff or within combatant commands. And they're actually interested in continuing those discussions and following essentially the same process. Have a discussion in the May timeframe, identify the recommendations, and then integrate those recommendations into the military, decision-making process, right? So very, very encouraging for those for Seminar 1 and 2 that they found value in the Warfighter Seminars and want to do it again this year. Seminar 3 is actually a newer idea that came from Captain Al Hutchinson, as well as a gentleman named Mark Collins from industry. They're actually working, they want to explore ways in which, the military and contractors, and specifically contracting officials, can respond to immediate, this just happened yesterday, and we need contractors, we need industry and the government to work together in the quickest possible way to solve joint engineer problems. Seminar number 4 and 5 actually came from the from the Air Force. It was a kind of a collaboration of ideas, and we're still flushing it out, but we think we'll at least have one seminar number 4 and possibly a 5th seminar, depending upon how we further flush those ideas out. But right now, Tim O'Rourke from the Joint Staff, who's also a JECO COI steering committee member, and the Air Force are working out those ideas, and you know, we'll be further flushing it out to see where we go. But it looks like at least we will have 4 seminars, possibly 5, which is an increase of one seminar from last year, where we had 3 seminars. And then we'll be having that out brief, you know, there on Thursday, the final day. That's specifically being done a day, you know, essentially the next day to one, give the seminar groups an opportunity to, you know, really refine their out briefs to the senior leaders. Additionally, the timing of all of these events will not interfere with the Joint Engineer Education tracks, which will be occurring also as part of SAME. So, you know, you can still go attend these Warfighter seminars, but then also attend the Joint Engineer track, education track sessions, which will occur throughout SAME. And then once we're done with that and we give the out brief, we'll do an after action review, and then working with Tim O'Rourke from the Joint Staff, we'll be talking about how these will be incorporated into the annual work plan or joint logistics estimate or other processes. Overall, I think we're really on track this year to do exactly what we did last year, and possibly even more with the addition of a further seminar. So I'll stop there and ask if anyone has any questions about the Warfighter Seminars for 2022 as part of JECO. Okay. General Schrodel, any comments or?
Yeah, Jim, matter of fact, I was just typing a note. One of the things that we just did that relates, we've canceled the CEO roundtable because it would have made it very difficult for the chiefs to participate in the Warfighter seminars, as well as the executive advisory group, as well as a roundtable. So we want to keep the chiefs focused on the seminars.
Yeah.
Just so you know, we've cleared the decks. So any support you need, let us know.
Okay, awesome, sir. Thank you very much. And our next working group meeting is going to be not this week, not next week, but the week after. So I'll get with Rob and Steve, and we'll see if that changes our process in any way.
Yeah, good.
Okay, good. Anybody else with any other comments on the Warfighter seminars? I do really appreciate all the people that are involved right now in the process. I think we've got enough hands in the pot per se, but always we'll be definitely looking for industry representatives in particular with respect to sitting on these seminars. And we typically like to have about 2 to 3 industry reps per actual seminar. That really provides a nice balanced discussion and doesn't make it an only military kind of discussion, government discussion. Okay. Well, with that, let me go back to the agenda here, and we're going to move on to our guest speakers. So next, I'd like to welcome and introduce our guest speakers for today's meeting. At least since I've been the chair of the JECO COI, which is going on 2.5 years now, we've always had guest speakers from the military or the U.S. government, and we've featured almost every combatant command engineer, folks from the Joint Staff, you know, recently deployed or returned military members from deployments. So I was really intrigued when 2 SAME JECO COI industry members approached me and asked me if they could actually provide a briefing to the JECO COI. And, you know, after all, our mission is to facilitate industry government engagement. And so I thought this would also be a nice change of pace to have actually industry members giving a brief about a new technology or you know, a better way of potentially doing something. So with that, we've got Seth Adamanis, He will be the first guest speaker. Both him and Michael Johnson will be tag teaming on this briefing. And so I'll introduce Seth first. So Seth has supported various conventional Department of Defense entities, top-tier special operations, and premier intelligence agencies since he enlisted in the United States Marine Corps back in 1998, and has infused leadership excellence into everything he was involved with, from engineering and integration efforts to no-fail counterterrorism operation support. He's excited to leverage his diverse experience to foster impactful relationships with clients and provide world-class crisis preparedness training and environmentally non-toxic safe spaces to those wanting to better protect themselves and those in their care. From increasing natural and man-made disaster events, Seth is currently serving as Lionheart International Services Group in a business development capacity to facilitate government interactions with a trusted manufacturing partner named Gigacrete. Our second guest speaker, and I believe Michael's going to be doing the great majority of the speaking since he's the technical expert, was born and educated in England and emigrated to the US in 1982. He has successfully owned and operated several companies in the construction sector, as well as holding executive positions with a startup company in Boulder, Colorado, and a national building materials chain throughout the United States. For the past 10 years, Michael has held positions as an executive within the company Gigacrete, based in Nevada. And so with that, Seth and Michael, I'll present your slide deck here, sliding it onto the screen. Going to a full screen mode. And so over to you, Seth and Michael. And thank you very much for agreeing to speak to us today.
Thanks for having us, Jim, and I'll let Michael take it away, like you said, as the technical expert, and thank you for the great introduction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you again, Jim, and thank you everybody for participating. I hope you will find this educational and something to ponder for short and long-term opportunities. So next slide, please. So if we think about the way we currently build and also protect ourselves within the environment, it really hasn't changed for many years. The previous slide showed you, pictures of straw huts, mud huts, etc. And if you think of the way construction industry and protecting ourselves, really since the pioneers came over here, hasn't really changed. We're still chopping down trees. We're still using bricks and blocks. Nothing has really changed. And so that is and continues to be a big issue within the industry. There are continued advancements in building science technology, but they typically are lipstick on a pig. Different type of drywall or treated lumber, things like that. And a lot of people are concerned and are intimidated by the unknown. The industry is really risk adverse, and the industry is not driving change because the consumer is not driving that change. You really need a pull-through effect to really get something within any industry to change. And then you've got the special interest groups that really kind of hold back any really true advancements within the industry. Next slide, please. This is kind of something which is near and dear. So when you think of where we build today, we build where it was once a forest, where it was once grasslands. And what do? We build with the exact same materials we just took from that environment. And then we expect those materials, when a forest fire blows through or a storm blows through, to survive. Same as in coastal environments. We're building in coastal environments, especially today where we're seeing more and more storms and more issues occurring, and we still keep rebuilding the same way. If you think of the most recent fire in Colorado, all houses built, which was once the forest area, and over 1,000 structures gone in 48 hours. So we have to change the way we do it and stop repeating this madness. Next. So when we talk about evolving industry and we talk about the construction industry really evolving, what we've really done is we've tried to create tighter envelopes, more insulation values, but we really don't address toxic materials, flammable materials as much as we really should. And that is, again, very evident in the issues we can't continue to see. We're pushing now 2x4 upgrades, so take from a 2x4 to a 2x6, so we have better insulation values in the house. That's a great thing because that helps save on energy consumption, and energy consumption or energy use is a big CO2 gas producer. But what we end up doing is we add double, basically 50% of fuel contribution to a fire, so there's more to burn. We're taking down more trees. So again, we just continue that same madness. If you look at other advancements within the construction industry, we've gone to what we call SIPs, structural insulated panels. But those again are wood sandwich with foam in between, which requires heavy lifting equipment. Then there's the Icf Industry. Icf is basically a foam block, like a Lego block with concrete inside. But concrete is a huge CO2 gas producer. Great products, both of them, because they are advancements in the industry, but they don't solve this, the problem we have. We're also seeing 3D printing coming into play right now. A lot of companies, even the military, is looking at 3D printing, but there's no testing to prove what that 3D printed structure can really survive, and we're still using concrete. Next, please. So then we look at personal protection and where we protect ourselves. Again, no real changes there. If you think back to the Viking times, we used wood and steel to protect ourselves, Middle Ages armor, and today we have metal shields. So not a whole lot really changes in any of the industries. We've added Kevlar and aramid fabrics, but they're no good against armor-piercing rounds or edged weapons, etc. So we have to stop putting lipstick on the pig and really evolve into something for both building capabilities, personal protection capabilities, which really change the way the industry focuses today. Next, please. So talk about a new efficient way to build along with a ballistic protection. It has been developed. We have developed it. So when you look at what you really want to have out there is you want a non-toxic environment. People don't want to live in a toxic environment. And many houses today have toxic materials in them. We also want a structure surviving Cat 4, Cat 5 hurricanes, survives seismic zone 4, no mold, no mildew. And it works in all environments. We just don't have to focus in a cold environment or hot environment. We need all environments. We need insulation values in every environment, and the product can perform in all those environments. Next, please. So a system which is faster to build, faster to construct than wood or masonry. That's really what we have to look at today. And with labor constraints in the marketplace, with less trade schools going up today, so less people in industry, we need a product that can be built with low skilled labor, with high insulation values, and really minimal brain freeze, if you will, in regards to laying out a house, getting it all set up, and then you're combining all those things like non-angelic, non-toxic ingredients and the strength of a structure that can survive like a Cat 5 or a seismic zone 4. Next, please. So if you take EPS foam, EPS, as we all know, like a polystyrene cup, if you have a polystyrene cup which is say 1/8 of an inch or less thick, it will keep your hand from a scalding hot drink. It will also keep your hand from a very, very cold drink. So if you take 6 inches of EPS, all of a sudden you've got a phenomenal insulator. And then if you take that 6 inches of EPS and you make it into standard sizes and standard shapes, it becomes very easy and basically like a Lego block to build a structure. If you engineer it along with the right gauge steel studs and you have accessory holes, as you can see within the panels, now you've got places for anchoring down to a foundation, running electrical chasers, etc. So it becomes very, very simple to build. It doesn't require a high skill set. Next, please. So what we try to do is we try to lay out any structure, whether it's a house, commercial building, fast food restaurant, etc., with standard components. So here you can see how we take a structure and we drop a corner into each section, and then we drop a T So top right-hand corner, you can see a 1 foot by 1 foot corner, which is 6 inches thick, which gives you a 6 by 6 interior leg. And then you come across and you see a T for an intersecting wall. So now you're not hunting around a job site for all different parts and pieces. There's one size T, there's one side corner, and then there's 4 foot, 3 foot, 2 foot, and 1 foot flat panels. So it becomes very, very simple to design a structure and very, very simple to erect a structure. It's basically, like I said, like Lego. Next, please. The foam shapes just drop over a bottom track, which is anchored to the ground, which has a gasket on it. So again, now the foam actually snugs up against the bottom of the slab or the edge foundation, and air infiltration is the big issue. So by having a foam gasket and the foam coming all the way down, really help to prevent that. And then we just take, again, low skilled labor and drop a double stud connector connecting 2 foam panels together. And as you can see there, that that steel is not touching the outside at all. It is buried inside the actual panel itself. Next, please. Oops. Then what we got to look at is how do we anchor that structure down to that slab? And the simplest way to do that is just take a piece of all thread on a coupling nut on a bolt that is already in the foundation at a predetermined place, and then we crank it down, and then we take a bracket off of that top, and we put the whole unit in compression, and we bolt that then to the roof. When we do that, then all of a sudden we've got a structure which can survive the Cat 5 hurricane. Next, please. So when we look at that type of structure and that type of efficiency, you can see here a really good cross section of showing how foam buried within gives you a 50 to 60% energy savings. And if you look at the US Department of Energy chart on the right-hand side, you see a typical home today, 2x4 construction R13, falls in a band of around 100. A typical energy efficient home using 50% more lumber, meaning 2x6 R20, actually falls in the 70 to 77 range. A structure built with this type of methodology falls in a range of 2. So the energy used to heat, cool, power is greatly reduced, which obviously is a big savings. It's a savings when it comes to the carbon footprint that a house puts off. Next, please. Everybody asks typical question, well, how would you run plumbing? How would you run electrical? Again, all very simple. Plumbing, just using a hot wire knife, you bend it around the plumbing, whether it's a hot, cold, or vent pipe, and literally just melt the foam away. Put the plumbing in, and now you've got to do is spray foam over it. So now your hot is insulated in the wall, your cold is insulated in the wall. So your hot doesn't get your plumb doesn't get hot in the summer, doesn't freeze in the winter. An electrical, same hot wire knife just cuts out for a box, and that box aligns perfectly with those holes you can see above there alongside each stud. So no matter where you are in a structure, there is a location to run electrical wiring. Next, please. So then the simplest thing to do is, once that is all flat, shaved off and nice and smooth, is to put an extreme performance coating over the top. So by applying extreme performance coating, we don't have mold to worry about, we don't have mildew to worry about, and we have a seamless finish throughout the entire structure. The products could be sprayed, it could be hand troweled, so very, very simple to apply. In fact, even homeowners, we've even had homeowners apply these types of coatings, so not a difficult application process. Next, please. Continuous testing is also important. When you look at testing, you look at code approvals, you look at things that are going to last in the environment, you have to do continual testing. And whether that's from heat to make sure the material doesn't expand and contract, like in the top left-hand corner, 193 degrees on surface temperature, to water intrusion by building a water column test with water sitting on the surface of a coating to see how long it would take to penetrate. These types of things are incredibly important. Testing against salt water, salt air, because that is incredibly corrosive against all materials. Flame, direct flame with no smoke, no off-gassing, incredibly important. And getting to high temperatures, as you can see there, 1,787 degrees F. So these types of things in continual testing are incredibly important when you want to have a product in the marketplace that is going to perform and perform for a very, very long period of time. Next, please. So GigaCrete technology, you already knew the name, but we are GigaCrete. We're based in Las Vegas, and we've been around 15 odd years manufacturing high performance coatings, manufacturing high performance buildings, all the way from houses, structures that are in the Caribbean, which have survived 240 plus mile-an-hour winds. We've actually tested the system to 245 sustained with no damage. Couldn't go higher because the machinery wouldn't go any higher. We have structures built in foreign countries where people have never even seen a screw gun, let alone this type of building material. The product up in the top right-hand corner is a house in Ghana, Africa, which was built in 11 days. Next, please. So Stucamax, when you look at a structure, you saw the foam and the steel studs that are all in place. Then we have to start looking at how do we encapsulate. So that testing I just spoke about is incredibly important. So you need a high performance coating on the exterior. Today, in the world of stuccos, you have your typical 3-coat stucco and your synthetics. They don't keep water out. There's multiple lawsuits for mold, mildew, etc., etc. You need high impact resistance. You need something that is literally going to stand the test of time, whether it's in the islands or whether it's in a freezing environment, it will stand the test of times. Stucamax has been tested. It's been in the market for, say, almost 15 years with absolutely no warranty callbacks, no issues. It is used for things like waterproofing, roof decks, even ICF swimming pools. And obviously we use it on all of our structures. In fact, the missile impact test for Hurricane was 12 shots of a 2x4 at the cannon into this coating with no issues whatsoever. Next, please. And you also need an interior fire rated product. So I'm going to bounce through some of these just because of time, but you need a fire rated product for interior. And we've developed a product called Plastamax, which is all natural zero VOCs, which is perfect for the interior finish of any structure. Next, please. And then next, coating Ballisticrete. We developed a bulletproof plaster that can be applied over any surface, block, cement, walls, drywall, etc., that could stop really pretty much anything you could throw at it. We've even done blast testing. Next, please. You can see here a quick a few pictures on coating over drywall, coating over CMU block, and coating over say different types of finishes. We've gone all the way from 12 gauge slug to tungsten penetrating rounds. And in fact, we did test a 308 tungsten penetrating round over a hollow block and actually broke the bullet in half. The people that were witnessing that, including Seth, were actually amazed that we're actually breaking tungsten bullets apart. And incredibly cost effective, and it's not something that is obvious of what you're doing. People just believe you're just applying a plaster over a surface and just doing an interior upgrade, when the reality is you're providing high level ballistic and fire rated protection. Next, please. Same materials can be blended together and actually cast to make stackable blocks. So now we can actually have a stackable block for, you know, FOB, different fighting positions, etc., around the world. And once it's finished, once you've done using it, you take it down, you stack it back on a pallet, and you take it with you. You're not leaving things behind for anybody anywhere within the world. So it can go on grass, sand, concrete, any type of finish. Level it out, stack it, and you're ready to go very, very quickly. Next, please. This is interesting. So we've also done radio frequency testing, high and low level radio frequency testing, and we're able to take our product and manufacture it to look like anything in nature. So as you can see here, it can look like an old tree, or we can make it like a rusty box, like a brick, a log, anything. So we can actually make it so the coatings look like anything out there today, which are for leave behinds and things along those lines. Next, please. Blast testing has been done. I'm not the best one to talk about blast, but we have done blast testing, and we continue to be doing some more of that shortly. But we've taken, like you see here, a 4 foot by 4 foot panel and put 3 separate charges on it, and there was no area for a breach into a structure. So we can take any existing structure and really upgrade it for fire resistant and blast capabilities. Next, please. We added this one because a lot of people think you're restricted when you get into different types of materials and different coatings, but here you can see how the coatings can be used really for anything, for any architectural design, cultural requirements, etc. The center picture looks like a log. That's actually Stokomax over foam. The Panda Express, the top wood paneling, is actually Stokomax with a stain on it. So as you can see, for architectural requirements, cultural requirements, the materials can be made to look like anything. Next, please. Like I mentioned earlier, testing is incredibly important. So making sure you're testing so you can back up everything you say is really what we try to stand behind. So Miami-Dade, NOA, we outperformed anything they've ever tested. Abuse resistance, adhesion, mold and mildew, all those things are important. And then even certifications on the testing, where we took a hollow CNU block with 1 inch of material and tested the NIJ level 4, which is 30-06 armor piercing round. Next, please. All right. I was given 20 minutes, and I think I went 19 minutes and 20 seconds. So I think I moved through it as fast as I possibly could. I certainly hope it was educational enough to give you an understanding of the flavor of what it is we do. And if you do have questions, we're always open to answer some of those now as time permits. But also you can see our email addresses so that we can also be emailed with questions on anything that we provide. And thank you.
No, thank you very much, Michael. That was very thorough, and it looks like we've got plenty of time for questions. I wanted to, I'll open it up to the group, but I definitely have a couple of questions about it. So,
Michael Bartamy, I'm with Gigacrete. I'm with the consortium. Can you explain to them that house in California that the wildfires destroyed all the houses but for the one in Gigacrete?
So that particular home that was in Malibu, the entire hillside burnt to the ground. You can see that picture actually in the background of this particular shot or this particular slide. The homeowner was in that particular house or actually outside hosing down the entire hillside, at least as far as he could with his water tanks, until the flames and the ash started to get on him and actually started to burn him. And he went inside the house, took a picture of the outside where there was flames all around, and told his wife he didn't think he was going to make it out. He was later interviewed, I believe, in the Wall Street Journal, just absolutely amazed, and there is not a single mark on that structure because there's no combustible material on that structure.
So the fact of the matter is that this structure can withstand fire, can withstand water, can be waterproof, and can be ballistic proof, so that anywhere in the world that we need protection and we need sustainability, the structure can be established and built quickly, as well as sustain all the environmental conditions that are going to occur.
Thank you, Beth. Any other questions or comments?
yeah, Michael, I'll ask a question. This is Jim Romaz. So can you talk a little bit about, obviously this is the the joint engineer contingency operations thing, and most of our efforts, except for U.S. Northcom, are essentially focused on overseas. Can you talk a little bit about the applicability of this structure overseas, sizes of buildings built overseas, and purposes of those buildings?
Sure. So we've done quite a few projects overseas and continue to have interest in that. We did a structure for the Colombian military, which actually was built in the jungles of Colombia. We actually had a gentleman come in who was trained for half a day on how to build our structure. And from the half a day training, we containerized everything, shipped it down to Colombia, and the entire structure was built. We didn't get a single phone call with a question on how to build it. That structure is still standing today with absolutely no issues. Within that structure, they actually had a collection room. Don't ask me why they had a collection room, because we were told don't ask. But they had a collection room which had ballisticrete in it. The other structure you saw was Ghana, Africa. That was the house. Again, we trained one person for half a day. So it doesn't matter where it goes in the world. It is very, very simple to build. We've got an orphanage in Haiti. When it finally got at the port, all the tools have been stolen, ladders have been stolen, and they basically put together by looking at a set of drawings, which we never really thought about it. When we sent the drawings down, we sent everything in English. We didn't think what language they spoke. They didn't speak English, but all they had to do was look at the drawing and see there's a corner, see the shape of the corner, and put it in place. That entire structure was built and finished within 2 weeks. So it doesn't matter where it goes. We try to simplify it as much as possible. We maximize the shipping by doing as many standard parts as we possibly can. So it's very, very efficient throughout. And for longevity, again, it doesn't matter whether it's the jungles of Colombia for heat and humidity, or Alaska, and we again ship to both. Not an issue whatsoever.
And what is like the lifespan on these facilities?
We've done our own internal testing, and we know we've tested to at least 100 years for our coatings. The steel obviously is galvanized steel, so it's embedded within the wall, so it's not exposed to any of the weather. But the coatings we have tested, and we tested really internally to 100 years. But people laugh at you if you offer a 100-year warranty, and our attorneys and insurance companies won't allow it. So we know that you're going to have the structure there for at least 50 years, no issues whatsoever. But what you can also look at with the coatings is taking existing structures that the US government has really throughout the world, which are starting to deteriorate from salt air or just general environmental conditions, and add some EPS foam to them and add the coating, and you've added another 20 to 30 years life to an existing structure.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Tracy, did you have a question? Or I can read Tracy's question. So the question is, are there alternative manufacturers of this type of product, since this can be an issue when having to specify a minimum of 3 equivalent products in specifications?
Nobody has developed a product, or nobody's developed a one bag fits all, if you will. So you saw earlier on ICF. So there's ICF, but you have to finish it. They don't provide anything. You saw SIPs. They don't provide anything. Nobody has a one shop or one store, fits all, if you will. Nobody has a building system and coatings to match what we have. So you basically pick one from one company, one from another company, and you blend the different materials together. However, from what we've seen in the marketplace today, nobody has the same performance characteristics. Nobody has a stucco that can go below grade because they all wick water. Nobody has a stucco that has the same type of impact resistance. Nobody has an interior plaster that is actually past NFPA 286, which is a corner room burn test. So yeah, we are definitely on an island when it comes to the performance of our materials. So what we found is when people do specification, they look at you know, and or equal, if you will. And the biggest problem is there's no and or equal, because nobody can perform to the same levels that we're able to perform to.
And I think to follow on to that, Michael, great points, but I think what we're trying to do is influence actually the architects and the people on the front end to make them aware that this material exists and that it's very complementary and it can bond to a lot of existing substrates as well, besides just the new construction. And we find that the more we educate people, I think the more we can actually help shape some of these solicitations that go out, where we can check all these boxes and actually save the government time and money.
Exactly.
Okay. Anybody else with any other questions?
And one more comment that I bring in is the fact that Michael has brought up that the R value of the walls and the ceiling greatly reduce the initial cost for the HVAC system, as well as life cycle cost. So that will be a great savings to the military, as well as you know, just industry in itself. And these houses, like I say, the R value is going to affect, like Michael said, in the Arctic as well as in the desert. So those things are great components that, as well as it's got very little carbon footprint.
Thank you, Brad. If you look at typical structures today in the installation value, obviously they're very low. Then you look at the life cycle cost and total cost of ownership, whether that's an individual, whether that's a business, or whether that's a government. All those things need to be taken into consideration. And that even comes down to just interior finish for abuse resistance. We did a school in Kentucky 12 years ago, and we were told just recently the only walls in that school which have never been repaired, never had anything except for being washed down, were our coatings. All the other walls completely destroyed with backpacks, kids kicking them, etc. You don't have that issue when you have high performance coatings. So even though that coating was a little bit more upfront, the total life cost of that product was greatly reduced for that particular structure.
Okay, awesome. Well, Seth and Michael, thank you very much for the brief to the JECO COI membership, and I especially thank you for reaching out to me. You're the first industry member of the JECO COI to reach out to at least provide a briefing to our membership in the 2.5 years I've been running JECO. So we've ended a little bit early, which is actually probably good. I think it's the first meeting we've ended early on. So I want to thank everyone for attending today's meeting and appreciate your continued support of SAME and of the JECO COI. I'll pause for 5 seconds to see if anybody has any items they would like to discuss prior to us closing out the meeting. So.
And Jim, what I'd like to quickly in closing just say again, if anybody has any questions after, anything they can think of later on, or just use cases, etc., please feel free to reach out, email us. We are more than willing to respond to anybody. And again, thank you everybody for listening.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so with that, our next meeting is on the 5th of April at this same time. So please be on the lookout for an invitation/email from the JECO COI email address. With that, this concludes the meeting. And again, I want to thank everyone for attending, and especially to Seth and Michael for your presentation. I wish you and your families the very best. I'll hang on the line in case anyone wants to talk, but have a great day and look forward to seeing you again next week, also at JECO. So thank you.
Thank you.